Good afternoon, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second day of Design Doha Forum. My name is Jelena Trkulja, I'm the editorial director of the forum. And I would like to begin by introducing the moderator of our first panel, who will introduce the speakers. Gwen Farielly, please join me at the stage.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. As Jelena said, my name is Gwen Farielly. I am the curator for the Design Doha Biennial Exchange, which is an exchange among designers, artists and makers of Qatar and of Morocco. And it's in celebration of the Year of Culture among Qatar and Morocco. And I'm thrilled to be moderating this panel today, which is really exploring the intersections of heritage and craft and technology. And I know, based on the incredible speakers we have, it's going to be a really vital discussion and also debate. We are going to start the panel this afternoon by inviting Her Excellency, the Undersecretary of the State of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation for Italy, to the stage, where she will make some remarks. So please join us on the stage. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Let me first thank Her Excellency Sheikha Mayassa bin Ahmed Al Thani for her invitation to the Doha Design Forum. It is a pleasure for me to take part in this initiative representing the excellency of Italian design. Italy and Qatar are working hand in hand, and so many excellent projects come from collaboration between our institution, companies, and designers. This is based on the strong partnership between our two countries, and the frequent contacts between our leaders, and particularly His Highness the Emir and the Prime Minister Meloni. Here in M7, I am reminded of the many projects involving Italy that have been hosted in this location. A few months ago, I had the pleasure of visiting the exhibition Icone by Rossana Orlandi, showing iconic pieces of Italian design. Moreover, let me mention the outstanding experience of Skill 7 and From in the sector of fashion and furniture design. What can Italy bring to discussion when dealing with the integration between tradition and innovation? We are renowned globally for our ability to combine technical innovation, quality of material, and aesthetic harmony. Everyone knows Italy's incredible artistic heritage, our sculpture, painting, and literature that have made their mark on a global scale for centuries. One of the key has been the ability to combine beauty and harmony. Such ability started with art, but they spilled over to other disciplines such as fashion and design. In design and furniture sector, Italy is one of the global leaders in terms of employment, number of companies, and turnover. This is made in Italy, continuity between the past and present, the integration of classic and modern elements in Italian design. It's a key factor that makes our unique style so relevant today. In 2022, Italy ranking second in the world, furniture with a 9% global share. In the same year, the exchange on home furniture between Italy and Qatar reached an unprecedented new records of over 217 million euros. Everyone can see how Italian companies are integrated in the local market in the Doha Design District, just a few meters from here. Italy's vision of design is Salone del Mobile for buyers, companies, and influencers from around the globe, making Milan the world capital of design. This year's Salone will be held on April 15 to 24 April. We welcome all of you to visit Italy on that occasion. Design is an important industrial sector and a drive of growth. Moreover, it is a platform that fosters the debate on green and digital transition, sustainable production, and earth trends. The Italian Minister of Foreign Affairs has put in place the Italian Design Day, an annual thematic initiative during which we organize an exhibition, workshop, and talks. Italian Design Day promotes technological innovation and creative ideas of Italian design worldwide. The focus on the production process, our design objects are in fact the result of high-quality materials and skilled manufacture that combine tradition with the most modern techniques. Education is the key. The collaboration between Italy and Qatar is based on partnership like between Qatar Museum and our foundation, Biennale, Triennale, and our museum like Galleria Borghese and Maxi. Many new projects will follow, creating new bridges between our creative industries, artists, culture professionals, based on our love for beauty. I am therefore deeply encouraged by the many Italian professionals present in Doha and contributing to our friendship and collaboration, and I want to congratulate them for their important contribution. Grazie. Thank you for attention.
Grazie, Your Excellency. Thank you. So I'm going to call now the other speakers up to join me on the stage, and you can take a seat. So Mariam Omar of Turquoise Mountain and curator of the incredibly beautiful exhibition Weaving Poems that you all must see downstairs at M7. Lord Snoden, craftsman and artisan who is really deeply committed to the craft of furniture, of wood, and also the knowledges that are vital to sustaining craft traditions. And also Farah Al-Yassin. Farah is overseeing programs of heritage and craft at the incredible Caravan Earth and Hinat Salma. And if you haven't visited Hinat Salma, I encourage you all to do so. An incredible place for the really lively sustenance of craft and heritage traditions of Qatar. So thank you all for joining, and now I'll join you. Okay. So we're going to open, as I said, this is going to be a lively discussion and debate. I'd first love to open by inviting you each to talk about where you see the potential for craft and technology to come together in the place that you're familiar with craft, right? So for you, Qatar, England, Afghanistan. So really to see, from your experience, where do you see this potential for craft and technology and innovation to come together? Let's start with you, Mariam.
Thank you very much. So we work in Afghanistan, and I'm a textile designer. We have a show just downstairs. You can go weaving poems and work with artisans, with weavers in Afghanistan. I used to be in Afghanistan, and we were, but at the moment I'm internationally just going around. So the technology has made it actually possible for me, first of all, to work with the weavers. And secondly, it has made it possible for our collaborative work tradition of handmade carpet weaving in Afghanistan is a very old tradition. In the way that carpet weaving was done before, the graphs and the design, everything was used to be done on a life-size graph, and the way that it was done on the ground, and it was all traditional, very geometric designs. But to implement the contemporary designs and also the traditional designs in carpets, the technology, the softwares that we are using right now has made it possible for us to collaborate on design. Like how we do it is we develop the graphs very easily on the design on software. And then it makes it just so much easier for everyone, even if we have a communication, we want to change things, we want to see different colors, different options, so it's just all so much easier. And then it's being printed and it's woven. So it is a fantastic collaboration between how a digital software works with a very old tradition of hand weaving carpets.
Beautiful, thank you. It's a really wonderful example that brings to life how this convergence can be really symbiotic. I think we often think of them as very disparate, right? It's technology or it's craft, but that really shows this possibility for symbiosis. Lord Snowdon, would you like to address that question?
Sure. I'm so old that when I first started making things, I made everything by hand. The marquetry, the turning, everything. And to a large extent, that has been mechanized, I think, to a greater advantage, because if we are producing a piece of furniture in wood, the cost is quite high for the amount of man-hours that goes into a craftsman's skills to make it. So I utilize technology to bring down that cost, to actually celebrate the craft skills that are available, rather than the easily available CNC routering that we can do, and to facilitate things that actually are better made overall. So I think certainly computer-aided design, certainly CNC routering, and those kind of technologies have really helped the handmade object become more affordable in the market that we're in, which is trying to be sustainable, trying to make long-lasting products.
Excellent, thank you. And Farah, from your perspective here at Caravan Earth and Hinat Salma?
Well, when we first started working with bringing in the crafts community in Qatar, and with the farm, Hinat Salma, and the work that we're doing in the foundation, we've kind of created a hub that brings in all traditional technologies. What I mean by traditional technologies is that tradition and technology are synonymous to one another. It's not really one or the other. And I think two of my great mentors would always say that the tradition is, metaphorically, they would compare it to a palm tree. And they would say all this ancestral, the trunk is the ancestral knowledge and basically everything that has been transmitted. There's always new leaves at the top. And that new leaf is all the traditional technology being manifested into the present. And so when we talk about implementing technology, we focus about human technology rather than separating the two. There's a lot of wisdom and a lot of skill that goes into craftsmanship that is proved the test of time to be ecological, to be truly sustainable, and to be of true beauty, and to put technology to the use of the human rather than making the technology superior to the human, making sure that the textiles that are handwoven are done by the human, and that the cities that we build are not made for the car, but rather for the person. So that's our work in terms of revitalizing that traditional technology and putting it into use.
Beautiful. I mean, I've heard also each of you speak about wisdom, of the knowledge, right, that's located within artisan communities and craft. Lord Snowdon, you've been very involved in education initiatives, as have you really all are. I'd love to hear you talk a little bit then about how you've seen in your experience curriculum transform so that artisans and youth who may be interested in moving into craft practices or have the potential to are learning across the technology of the hand and the human, and also digital technologies. Have you seen this being done successfully, this integration of the digital and technological with the hand in terms of learning and curriculum?
Well,
Anybody who wishes.
if I can tell a quick story, so working with the King's Foundation, we set up schools, various schools certainly at Dumfries House up in Scotland, all the different crafts in terms of making things, but also art studios and fashion. And we had one of the students there taught by one of my friends who had come up for a week for free. And I said, that's very kind of you, thank you so much. Well, and he said, well, I was actually started by the Prince's Trust. And that person that he taught now teaches at the school at Highgrove, the King's House in the country. And I think it's such a lovely story to feel that so often we don't understand the effects that education can have. Completely changed this boy's life. Yeah. And he's now teaching 50% girls, 50% boys at the school. And they're all passionate about doing something that they can see what the end result is at the end of the day. There's a tangible object that they've imagined, created, and it is there to last.
Yeah, no, beautiful. And it also really speaks to the fact that, you know, the education of making is often an education that brings people to it who are right for that type of education that may not thrive in other education forms. So, yeah. Mariam, do you want to respond to this question of curriculum and really the bringing together of technology and the hand?
Yeah, so at Turquoise Mountain, we are working in many different countries, from Jordan to Saudi to Afghanistan. And also we have a team of creatives in London, and some of our colleagues are in all over the place. I don't know where I am, I'm just everywhere. Yeah, one of the things, like, we want to take the artisans that are working with themselves out of isolation. So we have programs for them where they are meeting each other digitally. So for example, Afghanistan artisans are meeting Myanmar artisans online. And then they are exchanging, they see each other's countries and the map actually, they see how their studios look like the way that they dress, the language that they speak, how they do the work that they do, and it is very refreshing for them, and also they don't feel isolated, they see other artisans and understand about them as well. But also the educational side of it, there is so much that you can do, you can use the other artists' resources, and there are many people that like to work with artisans. And learning from their experiences, maybe they would not be able to physically go and see the artisans, but online is almost the same. You can learn and you can share your experiences with each other. And it's also the other way around. You can learn from the artisans as well. The artisans can introduce their work and tell you about themselves. So it has been just fantastic in terms of connectivity with all the programs that we have with each other.
Now, that's a really beautiful example of the digital technology and craft coming together. It's so simple, right? It's like using Zoom or these platforms that enable people to come together and learn from each other without having to think that we're replacing craft practices with the technology.
Just enhances the experiences of they have.
Farah.
Well, I will echo what Mariam just mentioned. Well, when we talk about revitalizing craftsmanship, whether in all realms, we talk about also making it viable to everybody. Yes. So when it comes to product development and making sure that there's an e-commerce platform for them to be on, to increase connectivity, but also on the aspect of the use of technology. As I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of technique and a lot of skill endowed with the masons and the craftspeople that we work with. So when we mentioned traditional technology, there is now many modern terminologies to those technologies that have been used for thousands of years ago. And they have proved, like I said, that they have proved the test of time. So what we do is we shed light on those techniques that are ecological, that are relevant, and that really comes from the craftsmen themselves. And that spirit, and as well that technique, is what really the true definition of technology is for us. So connectivity and also skill is crucial.
Yeah, and I love, Farah and I have talked before about craft, and I love how strong a position you take that, correct me if I'm wrong, that our job is to really protect the craft and the artisan, but exactly to use the technology to help to facilitate their engagement with market and opportunity in the world. It's a really lovely point. I recently had the privilege of traveling in Morocco with 4 designers of Qatar who were participating in this exchange I mentioned. And we met with this incredible thinker about craft in Rabat, Iman Bankaran, and she works a lot with the artisans who run the shops in the Fez Medina, right? So they're selling their craft, they're making their craft and they're selling it. And based on her many conversations with the artisans, she said, you know, it feels that for them there is a crisis for craft right now because they know that things can be created fast through digital technology and can be created very inexpensively and actually brought back to some of these craft markets and sold alongside their artifacts. So she was really talking about this moment as a moment where we have the potential to define the value of the handmade today in the face of technology. And I don't know if any of you have had experiences where you've had to defend that. And if you have, it'd be wonderful to hear and to share with our audience today some of those experiences that you had.
So there's a Instagram account called Heritage Crafts, and you can go and look on that. And in it, there are what they call the red list of endangered crafts.
Okay.
That, to me, is a huge wake-up call to what we all need to try and preserve and help and conserve. And from a society perspective, all the things that we love about how things are made. But I think that there is also help at hand. I think that there's a general understanding that there is a crisis, that there is a definition between those things that were completely handmade, they are dying out, but there's a new generation of people who are going, hang on, let's just conserve these and help them. So I see a light at the end of the tunnel. It's quite a long tunnel, but I think that there are people who are second careerists who are 50, who've worked in an industrial aspect. We had one at the school the other day who'd worked at Dyson and wanted to actually make something tangible. So I think that the more that we get mechanized as a society, the more that we actually want something that is something that you can actually feel you've created. And I think that creativity in a human will always be there. So I'm positive.
Yeah, excellent, good. Okay.
I think projects like this, like what we are doing right now, it is very important to fight that problem that we have these days. And it is about education and understanding of what a slow production is and what the value of that is. And for example, if I say about textiles or carpets, the handmade carpets would live like many, many generations. They have like longer life than any humans. So this is a value that the new generation can be educated to understand, that it's something that you own and then your children own and your grandchildren own. And it is, especially in today's society where we are very desperately looking to connect with each other, there is your connection. Yeah. Something that you loved and you owned and you valued, and it's passed to your loved ones, generation to generation. So I think that having events like this is vital, actually, for that education.
Great, thank you. Farah?
Well, in terms of technology and really the endangered crafts, we have to be careful. I think we have to be conscious of what kind of technology we do accept and who it's made for and what problem is it solving. Is it solving a problem for the community or for the individual? So when it comes to the artisans, first of all, we're spiritual beings and no machine could ever replicate something that is handmade. And nothing could even compare to the beauty of it. But objectively speaking as well, in terms of technology and just not being skeptical of it, we have to kind of have a filter almost to see What do we allow and what don't we allow? Not to say that we're anti-technology, but we need food to survive. We also need technology to survive, but we have to be diligent on what we accept and what we reject. So, like I said earlier, the human is the priority, and the technology should solve some sort of better good for everybody. So we have to look at technology from that sense. Who is it made for? Who made it? And to who does it cater to? And only then will you be able to be conscious of technology and to reject or accept. Well, through our work at the farm, which I invite everybody to come and visit, because it's really putting the theoretical and the practical into use, and to see what it means to create something of true technological progress that involves people and not the machine. And so if we're conscious of that and if we're diligent, I think that's true progress, one that is human-sized and one that is spiritual rather than industrialized. And through my fellows' work and their initiatives and the people gathered here today, I think that's the kind of positive way forward, being conscious of it and kind of having an open mind, and it's okay to judge and to create an objective lens to things, to say yes and to say no. And more importantly, crafts is one of the greatest protectives of our cultural identity. So if we are to replace that cultural identity with any technological invention that comes about without the traditional framework or what is the sane framework, then that is, well, I would argue, going backwards, because it's meant to be for the people and by the people. So being conscious and not complacent, to say no and yes, is the way to go about it.
So to critically engage with technology, the way in which we critically engage with other tools, like to choose the tool you pick up, in this case to sustain craft. Also in my experience, there is another potential crisis for craft, and you alluded to this in your response, Lord Snowdon, and I think we've all somehow alluded to this. I mean, you mentioned we need, food in our mouth, right? We need to sustain ourselves economically. I had this really powerful moment once. I was in a craft center in Morocco, and I met the head of the craft center, and he introduced me to his sons, and he so proudly said, they will never do this, right? They're going to university, they're going on to a different life. And I understood, right, where that sentence was coming from. And, I think it is this industrial idea of progress that has been in many ways fed to us, of what progress looks like. That doesn't always include craft in the hand. It's also, yes, when technology is important, the making process can be very long and difficult. So I just wonder if you could speak a little bit to this idea of the crisis of the pipeline in certain crafts. I mean, you talked about the red list of crafts that are in danger of dying. And how do we engage youth who, through social media and digital technologies, are seeing so many different ways and opportunities of being in the world, to either stay within this tradition that's been passed down in their family, or to come to a completely new, like you were saying, the individual who worked at Dyson and is coming to seek out a craft lifestyle and practice. So any thoughts on how we...
I've got lots of thoughts.
Great. Off you go.
I think that we must start with looking at education. And in school, and I can say from personal experience, I wasn't very good at maths. I wasn't very good at academic subjects. But I was lucky enough to have the keys to the workshop at a school that encouraged art and craft. And that was my vocation, and I was really lucky. Age 13, I made my first desk, which I still sit at. And so that was luck. I think if education incorporates that ability to look at people's skills at an early age and then say they may not be academic, but they have got the opportunity of being not only a musician or some other things, that sports or things that are also, successful for the society we live in. Because at the moment where I started from, when I went home, my mother's parents said to my mother's friends said to my mother, "When's he going to get a proper job?" And it wasn't considered something proper that you did. And I think if we break that down into something that is honourable and is something that you are contributing to society with, then that is a start. Yeah. And I think we're seeing that already. Yeah. And from an industrialised perspective, I'm working on some things with Aston Martin. They have a whole new concept about how to utilise materials from the place where they're made. So we're doing a whole car at the moment made of wool, utilising natural materials, but from close to where the factory is in Wales. So I think the more that a lot of the luxury companies are getting into they already sell the word craft a bit too much, in my opinion, but the actual making of an object, or that you can feel that it is crafted, then that will be how we get more people to appreciate, and therefore more people to come in and be makers themselves.
Mariam, I wonder, with the female weavers that you work with, if you are seeing their daughters and children wanting to continue into the weaving practice in terms of their future career, or are you starting to see a transformation?
Afghanistan is one of the countries that have like millions of people that can actually weave carpets. So it is one of the things that even at school we were taught how to weave carpet, and we were taught how to embroider. So there is a massive number of people that can actually do it. So it is not, at the moment in Afghanistan, is not in danger, but totally, like the whole world is going towards doing something that's easier and has faster income probably. And one way or another, we are a part of the world, and it's going to come to us one day.
I think in terms of, revitalizing craftsmanship through my humble experience and through what we have seen that is successful, is making sure that when we're developing a product with the artisans, that it has function, it has a utilitarian use. So we're not creating beautiful objects that are useless, but rather putting the beautiful into something that is useful. So creating furniture, much like what you do and Miriam, that can be used and lived, is what makes it as well in demand. Because if we are just to romanticize the concept of craftsmanship, or to do it for the sake of sentiment or nostalgia, then we cannot really carry on doing the work that we're doing. So there has to be economic viability and market demand, and that essentially starts with the value chain. So when we started our work with the Sedu weavers in Qatar, which Sedu is a local textile, it's a nomadic textile, we had a problem with the value chain. Okay. So we ensured that the value chain was 100% local and that it was natural. So once we secured that, we were able to carry on to the next stage, which is the product development, and making sure that, well, this is a beautifully crafted piece and I can actually put it to use, therefore I'll buy it. And that, with time, has also validated our work, but also, more importantly, gave the craftswoman or the weaver the confidence to carry on, and also to kind of help them perceive the work that they're doing and the impact that they're contributing to culturally, socially, and economically, as well as on the ecological aspects of things. And that also helps their daughters, their family members, to support and to engage and even learn the skill to help and support, but also in terms of that it's their bread and butter, and this is how they can carry on. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
I think we're almost at time, which is really sad, because I could sit here and chat for a whole day, I think. There is also, I think you're all alluding to this a little bit, and it's something that's really important to remember. The more we engage with craft in really thoughtful ways, the more we help the earth. And I wonder, in the 1 minute we have left for each of you, if you could speak a little bit to how you feel that craft can really help us be better citizens with our earth. Farah, you start.
I'll start for a change. Well, like I said, we're spiritual beings, and I think all of us inherently seek some sort of truth and beauty in the work that we do, a sort of purpose. So if we feel that we are of service to our community, if we are challenging false beliefs, if we are really following a spiritual framework rather than a consumerist industrial framework that basically sees everything around you as a resource, the earth, people, life in general. If we stop and we ponder for a minute and we realize that everything that was collectively, God has created this earth for us to do good in it. And so if we look at it from that spiritual access and follow those transcendental values, I think goodness will be a complete byproduct of the work that we're doing. So being a spiritual society that is guided by those principles naturally will allow us to do good and be ecologically sane as well. So yeah.
From a stress perspective, it's really good to make something. When we were all in COVID lockdown, it was amazing how many people went to their shed and how many people took up knitting and baking. It's because they had the time. And I think so often we are restricted in our theoretical time limits by the things on the telephone that can detract. And I think sometimes, if there were other things that were more, in a way, sort of beneficial to society, people would do it more. So I think it's just being led. I had a hilarious example the other day from some school children who were going around Dumfries House, and there was a very handsome blogger called Joe the Thatcher, and he's sort of Justin Bieber handsome. And they were going, God, look, he's really handsome. And anyway, he said, well, they were making some roof thatching, and that's what his actual job was before he was a blogger. And so he got up on a ladder, and he did the whole of the thatching on the roof. And then suddenly they thought, wow, that's what I want to do.
That's great.
So I think a little bit of, social networking might be good.
Yeah,
because so often it's hidden as something that people get tucked away and do. But actually, when you celebrate it, it's really good fun.
Yeah, and help understand it is a part of our contemporary world and practice too, right? And Mariam, we'll end. You'll have the final word on this panel.
Sure. Again, by working for so focused and by giving it time and by adding value to what comes from nature, for example, in textile, what we do for the wool, like it's hand spun, it's handmade, everything. So you add so much value into this product that you are already helping, the nature to add your stamp on what nature gives you. And then that takes it to it gives it a life, a very long life that actually exists for many centuries to come.
Thank you. Thank you all. It's been an incredible honor to moderate this discussion with you all. Thank you for coming. And I encourage everybody inspired by this panel to go see Weaving Poems, which is just a really beautiful example of craft in this building, as well as the many other exhibitions. Thank you all. Okay, thank you. Yeah.